This is your number one lady, Ndimlo Ukolosa Kalubisi Umadlongoti, and today we're out here in Soweto at Deep Kloof ukufumana izimvo zomakoti abasebatsha babacinga ntoni bona ngelobola nangomtshato. Let's do this. Uyibona njani ilobola kule mihla esiphila kuyo?
Mna ndiyibona ibalulekile ilobola kule mihla esiphila kuyo ngoba kaloku uphuma ngokusesikweni kokwenu ukuya kulo mzi kwenzela izinyanyaza lo mzi zikwamkela.
Kufuneka yenziwe siswami into yelobola. Okokuqala xa silotyolwa asilotyolwa uba sithengiswa okanye kuthwane. Xa ndiyolotyolwa ndiyocelwa kwizinyanya zasemavundleni, ndigqiba kwam ndihambe ndikhutshwe ngamavundle ndisiwa kwanjilo. Xa ndisiwa phayana andisiwa kulo myeni wam, ndisiwa kuye, ndisiwa futhi nakwizinyanya zakokwabo ndiyokwaziswa.
Xa uhleli ungalobolwanga uyenza yonke lento yenziwa ngumuntu ongumfazi. So xa uzawufika wena uphisane ngawe uhlaza abazali bakho ndawo oqala. Nakho kwabo lo bomfana bahlazekile because nina nihlalisene. Ngoba nizawuhlalisana ekuhlalisaneni kubakho umntana, after kubekho umntana niza kuhlukana. Lo mntana naye uzawuenda esenza lezi zinto benizenza.
Ungahlala naye isikhathi eside mara mangaba like akafuni ukulokhu nje ukuthatha njengomfazi wakho egcineni ugcina nje kuphela sakakhipha endlini. Anytime avela nje kuphela kutshela the way umhlupha ngakhona, the way asakhathela ukuhlala nawe ngakhona.
Nna ke bona ile right hore ba ntshetse dikgomo. Ha o ntsheditse dikgomo wa ikutla hore ke mme. Ke ntsheditse dikgomo lenyalo la ka batswadi ba ka ba happy, lenyalo la ka ba happy, ba tsaba ho kopana. E ba di-family tsena tse pedi di ya kopana.
Uzawuthi yahlalisana i-boyfriend yakhe idlale ngaye, imzalise uza kuhamba kushiya umfana ayokhangela omnye. Mna ndiyibona ayikho right into yomhlaliswano.
And on that note, we want to say hello to Melang Sanbanani, South Africa. Welcome to Expressions. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
And I'm your host, Dumngolisi Wagamasanga. Now, we're coming to you live from our headquarters in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Now, the month of September is observed as a cultural and heritage month in South Africa. Now, as Expressions, we spotlight the cultural practice of lobola. Our poll question we ask, is lobola still relevant in modern day society?
Well, that's a very important question because lobola is an old age African custom that is sometimes referred to as bride price. Now, it is a custom where the prospective husband will pay for the bride in order to get her to marry him. Now, the tradition is designed to bring the two families together. Now, customarily, the lobola compensation is one that they use to pay with cattle form. But however, urban couples have altered to using hard, cold cash. Go.
Jackie, now as Expressions, we visited the township of Orange Farm. With what their views on lobola are. Do take a look at this.
Now, the practice of lobola is thought to be a sometimes intrinsic part of getting married for many young people. It is a traditional process. Now, this is assurance that the families have now gathered and are together and, of course, have witnessed the union between a man and a woman. So now, bearing all of that in mind, what happens when you have young people who are now evolving with the times and feel, look, we can still fall in love, but what if we really don't want to go through all those cultures and traditions? We should at least still be allowed to cohabit with our partners, don't we? Well, we meet with such young people here in Orange Farm and we have a conversation with them. I'm looking forward to it. Let's go meet them.
Sanelo Sankeloti, we relationship manje since 2011, right? So ilobola ngakhuluma ngayo why?
Abantu abasha vele into zamalobola vele sekuyizinto abangasazizi. Ngoba umfana once wavele wahlala naye angeke nje asazitshela ukuthi okay uzoya kini ngoba sekabona ukuthi nawe sewuzinikele kuye. Siyahlala sonke baze kwavela nabantwana phakathi. Mara ke ever since azange kube nento angathi uyayenza for ukuthi ayekithi for ilobola.
Manje wena ngesingawe uyafuna ukuthi ibhadalwe for wena.
Yebo ngiyafuna.
Yeah. So ke ucabanga ukuthi ilobola isabalekile ngesikhathini samanje.
Yebo isabalekile kodwa ukuya ngathi abasha asalandela imithetho. Yakudala ukuthi dala bekwenzakalani. Sesiyazenzela nje izinto.
Sisiphiwe wena ucabanga ngani ngelobola? Ucabanga ukuthi ilobola iseyinto ebalekile, iseyinto kumele iqhubeke ukwenziwa esikhathini samanje?
Mina kimi ibalekile kakhulu ngoba leyo nto leyo ikunikeza isithunzi emzini wakho. Ikunikeza uba nepower, uyazithemba nangaphakathi ukuthi yamangihleli kuleli khaya ngingowalana ngibelonga lana. Mase nihlalisene kuhamba isikhathi nibhorana. Mase nibhorene futhi lapho yilawo ozozwa khona ukuthi yakubhlungu ukuhlala nomuntu for nothing.
Very interesting comments there from our young ladies. But to help me unpack this issue, I'm joined in studio by Xolani Vonya, who is a young pastor, and I'm also joined by Linda Mkiza, who is a UJ cultural researcher. Lady and gentlemen, welcome to Expressions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you. And of course, I never do this by myself. My co-host Mxolisi, of course, is going to be manning our social media corner and, of course, bringing some of your insights on this also important conversation that we're having in studio.
Hey,
Cannot
Jax.
wait to hear what the guys have to say, right?
As you saw in the insert, it's going to be a fiery one, eh?
Excellent, excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think let's get straight into it. And I think, yes. Linda, I think maybe let me start with you. I mean, you are a researcher. You've done a master's on the issue of lobola. And I just wanted to find out from you, the fact that we attach a price to lobola, are we objectifying our women? Are we commercializing our women, especially during a wave and an era where women's bodies are being brutalized?
I think the idea of price has a very westernized connotation attached to it. And I think that's how we've come to understand it. And even when I started my research, that's the idea that I had about lobola. But I think if you look at it from a truly African perspective, and South African people, whereas Xhosa, Zulu, the multitude of cultures that we have, it's really about the joining of two families. It just happens to be a transaction that involves cattle or cash, depending on how one's family chooses to do it at this point in time. But no, I wouldn't necessarily say it's strictly about price. If you look at it as we go along, it does become an economic issue and people choose not to do it because it can be so expensive. But it's just has nothing to do specifically just with economics, I would say.
And Colin, maybe let me bring you into this conversation. I think as an individual who's representing the church, lobola is intrinsically an African practice. It's based on African traditions, but we also know the contradiction when it comes to religion and the hard position that you have as the church when it comes to anything involving ancestry. So I want to find out, in terms of the perspective of the church, what is your position when it comes to lobola? Can the two coexist?
Actually, they do. The first starting point is that actually lobola, it is a biblical, what I would say, it comes from the Bible itself. So when we study the Bible, we'll look at Genesis 24. When Abraham had to pretty much get his son, the wife, what he had to do, he asked the servant to basically take the flock, which was the livestock, together with some camels and all some jewelry, and they went to fetch the wife. And how they went about that, they went to the family. They actually met the lady, which was Rebecca, and after meeting that lady transferred them to their family. And from there on, there was a gesture of exchange, which basically solidifies or sanctifies the lobola. And therefore, after that exchange, and therefore the woman was transitioned in. So I wouldn't only quote it as an African practice, but it is a biblical practice. It is sanctified by God. So in that instance, therefore, I would not say these are in contradiction.
And Linda, you touched a little bit on the lens through which we sort of look at this practice of lobola, to say that the reason why we're even using the word price is because we come from a very westernized perspective. What is the right way to look at it, especially because we are dealing with a society where there is, toxic masculinity, where patriarchy is a problem for women. We also know even with lobola, women are not even allowed to sit at the table, which in itself starts to create difficulties and challenges within our society. What is the right perspective to look at this?
I don't think there's one single right perspective. I think lobola has many different functions and purposes and procedures that you could go through. And any one of those elements could be considered problematic or patriarchal and so forth. So if you consider the aspect of joining two families, that's just saying we're coming here as a man, as a woman. If this is a heterosexual marriage, you're saying we're coming here as a man and a woman and we're joining families and we want there to be good faith between the two of us because we're about to spend our lives together. On the other side of that, you consider, once people have been through the process of lobola and they're married and they're in their homes, some women feel like, they can't leave, they've been paid for, they're stuck in the circumstances, and that's obviously where the patriarchal stuff can be problematic. Even the idea that the money goes from the father of the son to the bride, an exchange of money between men for the sake of a woman, it could be patriarchal and problematic in that sense. So I wouldn't say it's one single problematic thing. I think there's many elements to lobola which you could start scrutinizing, but not all of it is a flat-out problematic practice.
And I think quickly, just before we go to the break, why is it the women? So if it's the two families coming together, why is there a price or at least an expectation that the male's family is the one that is going to pay that particular price? Why can't a woman pay lobola like we saw with Zondo?
Well, if you're looking at the original or more traditional perspectives of lobola, the whole thing was bringing reproductive and domestic labor into the home. So reproductive and domestic labor was typically something that was looked at for women to do. So there was no way that women were going to pay lobola for men because its practice itself is about bringing that domestic and reproductive labor into the next home. So I think there's a lot of undoing you'd want to do before you saw a woman paying lobola for a man.
It's up to you to sort of decide. Do you think as a woman that you should be paying lobola, or are you happy with this old age tradition in our country? And especially now that we are putting a spotlight on Heritage Month, is it important to make sure that these traditions of ours remain intact? You are watching Expressions. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
I guess it's Pinde Sabuya Futi. You're still with the Expressions, your hashtag #1 Youth Current Affairs show. We're discussing the cultural practice of lobola. Our poll question, is lobola still relevant in modern day society? Now, I'm now joined by Ucebo Kumalos from the Wits Zulu Cultural Society, as well as documentary author Usihle Wagwahlope. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you very much. Sihle, you described Ilobola as both beautiful and ugly at the same time. Why?
Because there are a lot of contradictions that exist there. It's beautiful for two families to come together, yet sometimes it's not so beautiful how the woman is treated, the valuation process thereof. There are times when they say somebody's leg is broken, meaning they have a child already, the price must be decreased because of that. It's not as inclusive, it's very heteronormative. So there are beautiful things about it, our ancestors and our families coming together, but there are also things that are problematic about it that serve to reiterate very patriarchal ideas that I find very uncomfortable.
She's very uncomfortable, Cebo. What would you respond to what she's saying?
Look, it is true that the culture has shortcomings that we have to work on. But the fact of the matter is that marriage, particularly customary law marriage, is part of our identity as Africans. And what has happened over the years is that because of slavery and the killings of our great ancestors, a lot of our adults who know how to actually practice the culture have been killed. So there is no one to impact that knowledge to the younger generation. Hence today, a lot of people are a bit confused as to what really this culture entails. But the fact of the matter is that it's part of our identity. We cannot say it has problems. It has shortcomings that have to be dealt with. Hence, it's recognized by the Constitution. If there are specific problems there, we can go back to the Constitution and try to look at them and agree as a society that are these values that the custom still holds, are they still relevant in this current situation? Because remember, our South African law customary, it's a living customary law, meaning it changes with time, and it's informed by what is on the ground. What is on the ground is the values of our societies.
Okay. All right. At the back of that, I need to quickly just find out ukuthi ngabe wena mbukeli uthini lapha ekhaya via our WhatsApp video note. Please roll it for me.
What's up, guys? What's up? Velo here. The question is, do I think lobola is relevant in today's society? My answer is simple. Yeah. Lobola is definitely very much relevant in today's society because that shows your will and your drive and your conviction to marry someone's daughter. It also sort of indicates your affordability as to will you be able to take care of her or not. So the answer is yes, definitely. I do believe lobola is relevant.
All right, of course, some views from young people there. Sihle, now he was speaking about how the culture and tradition has become somehow diluted, you know, as it was going up with the various generations. Now you at Passion Seed, you are a film producer. Now you documented a documentary on lobola. Tell me what went through the process of your research to ensure ukuthi this is reflective of what society is, as close to reality as possible, because lobola is a very sensitive issue.
It is a very sensitive issue. So what I did with the documentary, so firstly, it's a personal documentary. So it follows my own story as I go through that journey, as I vacillate and decide whether to do it or not. But there are also other couples. So each couple, I believe, comes from a different socioeconomic background. There's one couple that's in the suburbs, but they're still upholding their traditions. There's one couple, Elokshini, you know, where also we've been affected by things like migration work, you know, and colonialism and so forth, and that has broken down the family structure. And then you find that maybe Mauya Emakaya, people have a better idea, as opposed to sometimes Elokshini, because of that loss of culture that we've had. When you ask people, why Siexen? Because Gwenzi Wanjal. So we want to get to the root of why, from our pre-colonial history as Bantu people, why have we been using cattle as a currency of exchange up until today, where we still use it for Ilobola? So it's been
you try to go for real life stories in real time.
Yes.
Well, just before I go to my Facebook, you know, we are at a time where we're seeing a wave of abantu besifazane claiming their authority in society. I mean, we've seen the likes of Uzoto Abantu coming out to pay lobola. I mean, we have some women now who say, look, we also want to be included when you guys sit down and negotiate. What would your take from a cultural perspective be?
Look, because I had already highlighted that ours is a living customary law, meaning it changes with time. So, for example, if you look at civil marriage is a Western custom, and when it came to South Africa, it never used to accommodate gay marriages, Muslim marriages. But as time moved, the Constitution forced it to change to accommodate gay marriages and Muslim marriages. This also applies to customary law, because it is the law of our people, black people, part of our identity. But it's a fact, society changes. If society and the ground, the values are detecting that we should accommodate the women in the table, it happens. And I believe that it's already happening with Tswana culture. It's just that I mean, with us, we're part of the process, and definitely we will reach that change.
All right, at the back of that, let me just quickly get into a couple of Facebook comments here. Nolufefe says, we shouldn't forget where we come from. Lobola is our culture. That guy says, yes, it is relevant. Archie says, yes, but it is slowly being avoided by most cultures. Ola says, yes, it is still, but it's not about buying your woman, but at least it's something that makes you feel confident about your marriage as an African man and value your woman. So here at the back of that, you know, there's some of the sentiments that came through our various social media pages, young people saying that we have abantu abadala who turn Ilobola into a business. They're commercializing it. Do you think we likely, maybe it could be a question you guys could share, do you think we're likely to see couples just deciding to live together because lobola is expensive? Quick one.
Yeah, they could decide to live together, but I also argue, why can't two families come together without money exchanging hands? Why must money exchange hands for two families to come together?
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for joining us indeed. Well, Mbukelo uyizwele again now, where we continue ngale nkulumo ebaluleke kakhulu uMasibuya. This is Expressions.
Welcome back. You're still watching Expressions here on SABC 1. Tonight we're speaking about the issue of lobola, and the poll question is this: is lobola still relevant in modern day society? Now, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up this discussion that we're having, and I think there are a lot of important, I guess, ideas and issues that came up. But I think, just as parting shots, what would you like to say about this issue of lobola? Maybe let's start with you, Linda.
Well, I think my biggest thing about lobola, and the reason why I studied it at school, was to look at it from a same-sex lens. So I'm looking at lobola really, how is it changing to accommodate, everyone? It had its original historical purposes, but now we live in contemporary society. It can't be a 10-year process, and so it can't also just involve heterosexual couples. We need to bring in everyone who wants to get married. They should all be able to go through African practices despite sexual orientation and so forth. That's my final argument.
That's an interesting one. I hope we get an opportunity one day to actually unpack that, because that is really definitely something that I think we should touch on. And for yourself, Glenn, what would you like to say, especially from the perspective of the church?
Yes, so my perspective is that we shouldn't be scared to engage in lobola. Lobola is a very good biblical practice. And most importantly, I think we need to indicate that lobola is not a transaction. And it is basically about combining families together and God, therefore, to sanctify that harmonious unity. And therefore, by us practicing that, basically, we are actually, of course, worshiping God in essence. So, in my view, is that lobola is not a transaction, and also it is not the sale of a person. So we need to think bigger than that. It is an exchange.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I think you guys have given us a lot of food for thought. Thank you so much for coming to the show. Mgo.
Yeah, we had a very good conversation.
Interesting, right?
Very interesting. Mugeli, the big question is this evening. We asked is lobola still a relevant part of modern day society? This is what you had to say. Can we please get the results up? About 70% of you said yes, and just about 30% said no. So everybody believes in preserving customs and cultures.
And it's very important, especially now as we are commemorating Heritage Month, to kind of say it's very important for us to remember who we are and keep these practices intact, right?
Indeed. Thanks very much for joining us. Cutting Edge is up next. From all of us at Expressions, we wish you a spectacular evening going forward. TLT song plays us out.
Adios, muchachos. Bye.
Yadlula ngasibona isithandwa sami manje yakhumbula amazuzu ishumi leminyaka yadlula ngasibona isithandwa sami manje yakhumbula lepathula indlulile iminyaka ngingambona ulavi wami ngiyazibuza baby ngabusuthola abanye abangcono Elakhumbula lepanzula baby kulamalanga Ubuthonga phiki nasebusuku nzima ukulala Awugezi ukuzobhesuka oba ngafahlaka Kanti baby yini eyenza ukuthi ukhamba amanga Ngoba wathi uzongilinda ngibuye Linda ngibuye I hope ungikhumbule Phela senze kabashumi leminyaka Yadlula ngasibona isithandwa sami manje ngiyakhumbula amazuzu